Want to know the secret to doubling your sales close rate? It all comes down to mastering one simple framework. Whether you're a seasoned sales professional or you're just starting out or you're running a startup, mastering this one framework can instantly improve your ability to convert prospects into customers and double your success rate. Very important. Don't tune out and always be thinking about what's the next thing that I'm going to say. And I see this a lot. And I used to do this when I was very, very young in my selling career, which is that I'd have a script and I'd rehearse the script. And I'm so ready to say the next thing at the script that I wasn't really listening to what the prospect was saying. And that is a fatal mistake, because your brain is going to be going over, well, what's the next thing I need to say? What's the next thing I need to say? And that's why, personally, I'm a fan of using a sales framework rather than a script. Now, I will use scripts for specific things. And I've memorized several scripts for specific things so that I can just, bust them out and I don't have to think about it. But I like to use a framework because it guides the conversation and conceptually, but I'm not always thinking like, am I going to say it exactly right? I've memorized a few things, a few key things, but I don't have the entire script memorized, because then it's, I've never been an actor, but it seems like it's acting. And if the other party says something that is unexpected, I'll be like, oh, well, I wasn't really listening. I was rehearsing the next line in my head. So don't tune out. The best way to do this is after the prospect says something. So you've been asking, you've done that strategic asking. So, well, what is, tell me more about those leads. And then they say, well, we're getting a bunch of leads and a lot of them just aren't converting. And I'm not really sure how many more leads we need. It's like, well, how about the quality of leads? Are they good? Oh, well, the quality of leads, about 50 or 60% of them aren't great. So then you will repeat back to them what they just said, something along the lines of, so what I hear you saying is, and then you repeat back and you paraphrase back what they said to you. Now, when you do that, a couple of things happen. Number one, it shows that you are listening. It demonstrates that you and that is a very important kind of piece of social glue, that when you are actively listening to someone and you can say back or paraphrase back using their own words and their own concepts, what they've said, they believe that they really are understood. And when they believe that they are understood, they will become more bonded to you than if they think that the agenda for this call is to shove information onto them, right? We talked about this power dynamic, and we talked about you being the doctor. And if they believe that you really truly understand their situation, then they are more likely to accept a solution that you will propose later on if it's a good fit. So active listening is that. Now, redirecting. I mentioned earlier that sometimes you'll be on a sales conversation and they will start to go off in a certain direction. And I like to think about this. I credit learning the straight line persuasion system for this. But really, there's one big takeaway from that, and I'll summarize it really quickly here. And that is, you think of a straight line between the open of the call and the end of the call. And your job is to keep as close as possible to that straight line, not again on the script, but on the things that need to happen on that call. So if I need to ask certain questions, if I need to qualify them in certain ways, those are all on the straight line. And prospects will try to meander, okay? And they'll start talking about something. They'll start talking about the leads that they've gotten. They'll start talking about, so leads are not great. And my cousin Nancy also has a marketing agency and her leads are even worse. And her cat got sick the other day, and it's just going to start going off into never land. Your job is to kind of bat them gently back onto the line, back onto the straight line. So what you need to think about doing is say, oh, that's great. It's wonderful that she's got her own agency, but we're here to talk about your agency right now and what you should be doing in order to get that result that you wanted. And you gently bring them back onto the framework, okay? So the redirection is when they start to go astray, then you need to lead them back. The other piece of redirection is if they start to switch things around. Now, we talked about strategic asking, right? That's you asking them questions. They will try to ask you questions, and that is their attempt to grab the frame. That is part of the power dynamic. You are asking questions and you have the power. They will try to ask you for questions. So they might ask, what other customers do you have that are like us? Have you done any deals this big? Has this worked for somebody in whatever edge situation they have? They will try to do that, and that is their attempt to take power back. And I'm not saying that you dismiss those questions, but I say that you put those questions in the right place. So if you have not achieved along the straight line what you need to, and them asking questions is too early in the process because you haven't done your diagnosis,
then you have to, again, gently bat them away and say, that's a really great question. Happy to answer that, but let's make sure that we have a fit here, and let's make sure that I can provide a solution for you before we jump into any of the details. And that just puts a pin in it, and a lot of times they'll just forget about the question because it'll be answered later on, or it isn't important really. It is their attempt to take control through asking a question, and it's just a reflex, right? So that's what redirection is. So it's the combination of you making sure that they're on the straight path between the beginning and the end and the agenda that you laid out, and making sure that they do take control by asking you questions when it's not their time to ask questions. And again, I'll give more resources on how to do a sales call framework. That'll have to be a different video because it's going to be a long one. Okay, so then there's establishing next steps. So this is towards the end of the call. I'm shocked at how many times that I did not do this early in my career, and it was so dumb. And I want to make sure that you don't fall for the same problem here. At the end of the call, if you don't have a closed deal that is like actively signed physically on the call, I mean, there's some sales processes in which they pull up the contract and they watch them e-sign and they watch them type in the credit card numbers. Unless you have a signed contract with the money that has hit your account at the end of the call, you must have a next appointment. And the next appointment, it must be on the books and committed before you leave the call. So don't run up against the wire. Let's pretend that you've scheduled an hour for this call and you're at 57 minutes and they're still talking. It is important to stop and say, you know what? It's really important that we get a good result that works for everyone here. And it looks like we're coming up on our time. So what I want to do is put a call on the books with you for this afternoon, and just put another time. And I said something that you might not have heard of before, this afternoon. Everyone talks about like next week. Why can't it be this afternoon? Have the momentum now. Things will only die. So have the next step, and have the next step be as soon as possible. So if you've got a call in the morning, there is no reason why you can't have a call in the afternoon. There's nothing that's going to change. You're just continuing the current conversation, but everyone defaults to next week or maybe the next day or a couple days from now. Why? There's nothing good that will happen for waiting. So the point is not leave without another appointment.
This video is part of a larger series designed to help you boost your close rate. I know these strategies work because they've helped me generate over $440 million in revenue. If you want to dive deeper and learn even more, you can check out the full video right here.